Hey guys, welcome to the Something About Tuesdays podcast. I'm your host, Phoebe Joy. Join me every other Tuesday for a lighthearted podcast to keep you company while you do your thing. Hey guys, welcome back to Something About Tuesdays, episode 14. Do you know something? Okay, let's try that again. Hey guys, welcome back to Something About Tuesdays, episode 14. I'm your host, Phoebe Joy, and hi! Hey, welcome back. And guess what, you guys? Something I just realized today. I think I've tested this theory a couple of times, but I actually counted today. And I think since this episode comes out in September, that I've officially done 6 months worth of podcast. Woohoo! I do think doing it every other week has helped me be more consistent in making sure that I have an episode and content and things to say. But my first episode came out in March, not January, March. But let's see. So we've got March, April, May, June, July, August. Yeah, that's 6 months. And now we're heading into month 7. So I've officially had a podcast for 6 months, or over 6 months, I should say. Woohoo! Take your victories and your wins when you can get them. I'm so excited about it. And you guys, 6 months in, and I am still pretty excited about it. I really do enjoy recording and throwing things out there for people to listen to, help you guys just focus on other things, be that background when you just need a little bit of help. Y'all, I'm still there. I think I've increased my podcast listening because it really does help. I've been trying to not just, I love YouTube, of course, and I'm always watching stuff on YouTube. But the issue with watching stuff on YouTube is that visually it wants to catch my eye. And so while I definitely still do stuff while watching stuff on YouTube, my podcasts, I think, are steadily even beating out my YouTube views, because more than anything, I'd prefer to have my hands and my eyes kind of free to do whatever I need them to while I listen. So that part of my brain is still occupied. So yay for podcast. Actually, one podcast that I recently started listening to is called the Moral Support Podcast. And that's a couple of ladies who, from my church organization, the UPC, they're these two awesome influential women who have a podcast, and they do it kind of like this one, where for being such influential, amazing spiritual women, they just talk about kind of regular life, and of course they throw in good nuggets and things like that that help build you up spiritually and build your faith, but they also just talk like normal people. And so it was kind of cool to see and to hear, just other, someone who I would admire or look up to be just a normal person. And so yay, plugs for podcast, of course, mine. Thank you for listening, but also for other ones that are just fun to listen to. Yay for podcast. If you're going to start a podcast, do the thing. Go ahead. It'll be fun. But if you're like, nah, I'm just into listening to them, then yay, I'm glad you're here and willing to do that too. But here we are, episode 14. It's kind of funny because the very first thing I have written down to kind of talk about is kind of those odd sleeping quirks or habits, like things that you have to do, maybe not while you're sleeping, but once you've gone to bed, or things that you've noticed. Because once again, you guys, I am on a mission to go to bed early. I had my 6-month check-in, my first 6 months of the year. I did okay. Remember, I tried to do the 10 to 6, and I was so determined to be a 10 to 6 person. Well, I can't remember if I mentioned this in my last episode or the episode before, but I have shifted that a little bit to be an 11 to 7 person. And you're like, Phoebe, really? Yes. Sometimes you got to be fluid and flexible, you guys. Same goals, still sleep. But because my school now, we start a little bit later. Our whole district started this whole new thing. I touched on it some last week with different start times and things like that. So my school actually starts later at 9:40, and so since I don't have to be there until about 9:25, that gives me a lot more time in the morning. So I don't want to just, sleep until the last minute and then get up and go to work. But I kind of, now it's like I have even more opportunity to take advantage of my mornings like I tried to last year when I was under a different schedule. And so the 10 to 6 was wonderful for last year, and I tried to do that. But now I'm shifting it a little bit to 11 to 7, and I have to say that I'm a lot more successful with this 11 to 7 because I've come up with a system. I was just talking about it with a friend at work this past week. We were talking about how it's hard to go to sleep sometimes, and how it almost seems like a few years ago we used to be able to go to bed earlier, but now because of our phones and social media and just things that interest us on our phone, that we can find ourselves staying up late, and we'll go to bed, but then we're on our phones in bed and things like that. So I was talking to her about my trying to get to the 11 to 7 system, and I've created, I won't say created a system. This is nothing new. This is something that everybody, I'm sure, when they try to figure out their life, think about. But I've tried to stop since I want to be in bed by 11, at 9 is when I try to stop all my electronics and things that would require visual attention, as far as like any videos, if I'm watching any videos, or playing any like fast-paced games or anything like that. I try to stop by 9 o'clock. And so at 9 o'clock, no, is it 9 o'clock? No. 9 o'clock was my 10 to 6. I try to stop it at 10 o'clock. There we go. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, so I stop it at 10 o'clock because that gives me an hour between when I, need to go to be in bed by 11, but 10 o'clock lets me start winding down. So I'm sorry, not 2 hours before, but an hour before. I think 9 o'clock is what I tried with my 10 to 6 time, and that was so hard because sometimes, especially if you have things to do in your second half of the day, after work, you don't even get home until after 9. And so then you're like, but I really want to check my social media, and I really want to catch up on my videos and da-da-da-da. So I made it 10 o'clock. And so at 10 o'clock, I'll shut that down, and I have to stop it right then and be like, okay. And it's kind of funny because I found that what I do is at 10 o'clock, I start thinking about what I need for the next day, and I actually start preparing for it. I know it sounds common sense. Remember when we talked about our life hacks a couple of episodes ago? It sounds common sense, but I tell you what, living life is so much different than actually talking about it. And so I know, like, we know that we should do, turn off electronics maybe an hour before we go to bed, but to actually put it in practice is a different thing. And so I've been putting that in practice. I'm super proud that I've been able to do that. And I find that I start thinking about what I need for the next day, and just winding down. And so I will make my lunch for the next day. I'll think about what I might want to wear. I don't always come up with an outfit, because I am definitely one of those who every day I'm like, okay, what do I want to wear today? Because it's based on my mood and based on the weather. And so it's hard for me to pick clothes out in advance, because the next day I might be like, you know what? I want to wear something bright. I'm feeling bright today. I want to wear yellow. Or, I'm feeling more subdued and chill. I want to wear blue. Or I'm feeling sophisticated. Let me get some black with a touch of leopard print, So it helps me to kind of think about, what do I need for the next day? And I will, shower during that time. I'll wind down. If there's a book or something I want to read, because I do have time in that time frame, I might pick up a book and read a chapter or two of it. And I'll just slow down. I will touch base with my husband, because a lot of times I find that when I'm on my phone and doing all those other things, I may be around my husband, but we're not interacting, right? And so, and now I'm like intentionally be like, hey, what you doing? What's up? At least just some more face-to-face time before I'm like, I gotta go to bed. I'm sleepy, and then all we do is just sleep next to each other. So, that's helped, because then now I'm like at least paying attention to his face before I go to bed. I know that sounds so funny, but if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about, where you just sometimes y'all do your own thing right before you go to bed. You're like, hey, and then and then y'all are out. So this does help me to even connect with my husband some more before I go to bed, prepare for the next day. I remember things. For example, so this past week I was supposed to bring some paper into work, and of course, at work, I was like, oh, I'll remember. I even set an alarm I thought to remember, and apparently I never turned it on. So right before I go to bed, though, I'm just sitting there getting stuff ready, and then it hits me, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I remembered to grab that paper. So I grabbed that paper, and I put it in my bag to put in my car right then. Life hack, do it right then or you will forget. And so I was able just to remember things. It was like, it gave my brain enough time to kind of wind down, review the day, and get ready for the next day, that hour before I went to bed. Because doing it like 5-10 minutes before I went to bed, or, before the time I was supposed to be in bed, wasn't really working. So that's something that helped me. If you guys want to try that, let me know how it goes. But just trying to slow down on that. And then I won't even say that I completely get off my electronics, because I get off those things that are active with my brain. So like the videos and the things that might flash that might keep me awake. But once I get in bed at 11, one thing that I found that helps me go to sleep is I will play like a word game, because I love words, and I'll play like Wordle or a crossword puzzle, and that kind of winds me down. It helps my brain to kind of calm down, because I'm thinking, but it's not being used in the same way as it would if I was watching a video or something. And so it kind of winds down, and then I do get sleepy, because it is just like a kind of a slow, monotonous game that goes at my own pace, right? And so that winds me down, and then next thing you know, I'm ready to go to sleep, and it's been great, and it has worked really well the last couple of weeks. So if you guys are thinking about like, oh my goodness, obviously I should know I should go to bed early, I'm telling you, give yourself just like that hour before to maybe get off the major electronics, just the things that would occupy your brain completely, and just kind of, I guess, have a divide there. And I do think that a habit can develop and help with that, because it helped even on the weekend. Last weekend, next thing I know, I was ready to be in bed by 11 or 12. And normally it's like 1 or 2 on the weekends, which makes it hard to recover during the week. So anywho, all of that came from the sleeping in habits. Okay, so my sleeping habits was just one thing that I do is I always keep a cup of water by the side of my bed. And I don't know when exactly I started that, but I mean, at least for the last few years, man, maybe even since I've been married, I'm not exactly sure, maybe even before then, but I've kept a cup of water by the side of my bed, because for whatever reason, and hit me up if y'all have the solution to this, but at nighttime, I guess my throat gets dry. I don't know, but I'll just wake up thirsty, or I'll have to cough in the middle of the night. And I just need that cup of water. And it doesn't happen every night, but it most definitely happens like frequently enough that I have to have that cup of water by my bed. Even if I don't get up that night, the chance is just too high where I just might wake up and I'm like, oh my goodness, I really need some water, because my throat gets dry, really dry. And maybe it's because I snore. I don't know. My husband says I snore. I don't think I snore all the time. I do think I snore sometimes, but I think I snore when I'm like sick, or if maybe my nose is partially clogged or something. Like maybe that's when I snore, but maybe it's more frequently than that. And maybe I'm just one of those like loud mouth snorers and my throat gets dry. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I was listening to one of my podcasts, and he was saying how him and his wife had set up a video of them sleeping, and just to see kind of what happens and how active one of them is, and how, much the other person maybe snores and the other person moves, or how much they move, and like all the movement that goes on. And I don't want to record myself sleeping, but I am kind of curious what kind of like when I'm sleeping habits, like what do I do? Like what is it maybe that dries my throat out like crazy? And maybe it just could be I'm not hydrating enough throughout the day. I do think that is something I got to work on. Y'all know that's one of my resolutions. I think it's been my resolution for like 3 years now, but to drink more water. So that could be a thing, maybe that plays a part. I don't know. I think I have to Google that or something. Or if you guys know anything about or have experienced that, maybe I'm not alone in that. I do not know. My husband doesn't need water to go to sleep. I don't really know anybody else who has to have water beside their bed to go to sleep, but it's definitely something that I need. And I find it an interesting quirk. But another kind of funny thing is, and I cannot be alone in this. I am sure that there are other people who agree with me because I think I've talked about it with my husband. But have you ever overslept or like your alarm went off and you've decided to just keep sleeping because you felt like you didn't get the sleep you deserved? Okay, so for example, let's say you were sleeping really good but then you woke up, I don't know, 20 minutes before your alarm was supposed to go off. And you think, and you're not even tired when you wake up. Like maybe you woke up naturally or maybe something woke you up and you're like, no, I still have time to sleep. And so you try to go back to sleep. And of course, it's hard to go back to sleep when you know your alarm's going to go off in a few minutes. But you try to anyway, and then your alarm goes off. And because it does, you're like, but wait, I still have to make up that sleep. And so you lay there, and then you end up oversleeping. That happens to me so much when I think, or even if I've had like a bad night's sleep, but then I'll look up, and then it's almost time for me to wake up, almost time for my alarm to go off. And I'm like, no, I refuse. And so I end up oversleeping. That extra 5-10 minutes is not going to, make up for that entire night of bad sleeping. And yet I still am like, no. Or even if I slept really good, but I'm like, I've got to make up that time. And then what I end up doing is I just end up oversleeping. And that happened to me last week. Thankfully, I can be at work later now, but I had actually had good sleep. I think I had made it to bed by 11. But it was like, I think maybe like 6:30 or 6:45 and something had woken me up. And I was like, but it's not time for me to be awake yet. I still have until 7. And so I laid there and my alarm went off at 7. And I was like, no, I have to make up this time that I lost, that few minutes when I woke up. And the next thing you guys know, it was 8:30. And I was like, uh-oh, I really do gotta get up and start getting ready for work. And it's kind of funny, but it's something that I realize that I do. And when it comes to sleeping, is I feel like I have to kind of make up that time, whether or not, it's actually doing anything or not. But connected to that, so going back to how, like the hour before I go to bed, I've been trying to, kind of monitor my electronic time and screen time and things like that. So on the flip side, one thing I've kind of tried to do a couple of days that I think it might be helpful, so it might be something I continue. I'll have to keep you guys posted on that, is that the first 15 to 30 minutes not being on my phone. Again, it sounds like a given, but a lot of times I would use my phone to help wake me up. And so when my alarm goes off, I'll grab my phone and then I'm like, okay, let's see who's up with me. And so I get on Facebook and I'm like, okay, who's posted in the last 20, 30 minutes? I'll get on Instagram. I'll get on things that get my mind going because I'm like, okay, I want to wake up. But as y'all already know, the downside to that is that 20, 30 minutes, even 45 minutes can pass with me laying in bed looking at my phone, and that is some wasted time. And so I think, it was a few days ago, maybe it was last week, but my alarm went off and I grabbed my phone and I was like, you know what? I don't feel like having it start that early, on social media and on my phone and looking up YouTube and videos. Because sometimes I'll play a video while I'm getting ready, I just love I love having company. Let's just put it that way. And so I said, you know what? I'm not going to do it for at least the first 15 minutes. Like, let my brain wake up at the pace that it wants to wake up. Like, if it wants to wake up slow, then let it wake up slow. If it wants to wake up racing with thoughts of what I need to get done for the day, then let my brain do it. Like, let it sort out the day or let it slowly wake up. I was like, I'm going to give my brain at least 15 minutes to kind of wake up in the zone that it needs to be in, and then we'll move from there. And maybe even 30 minutes, so I, like, while I'm brushing my teeth, washing my face, I'm taking my shower, depending if I do, morning or night, whatever. Whatever I'm doing for that first 15 to 30 minutes, just not involving my phone. And I know I sound like a phone addict because I'm sure for some of you, you're like, I don't look at my phone right away. Like, what? But I know that there are others like me. So try that though, that like 15 minutes when you get up, even if it's just 15, maybe even 30 minutes of not looking at your phone. And sometimes what I'll try to do is, let my brain kind of work through whatever's going on. Sometimes I'll even start praying because one of the reasons I wake up early is to pray in the morning. And so sometimes I'll already go ahead and start thinking about God and get my brain kind of set and be like, hey, God, here we are, so that kind of helps warm me up to it and warm me up to prayer or whatever. But having that 15 minutes in the morning it's been really good. So I would probably say, and I'm not trying to make this a, self-help podcast or anything, but if you want to try to think about how to wrap your sleep around just some quick little good habits as far as, getting off your phone a little bit before you go to sleep and not getting on your phone right away when you wake up. I tell you what, there are benefits to it. I'm doing it and there seems to be benefits to it. Now, obviously, you don't have to do it every day. It'd be awesome if we could do habits like that, but give yourself some grace. Always give yourself some grace and don't be too hard on yourself. Otherwise, it'll take the fun and joy right out of it. But anywho, those are just things that around sleep that I think have been some good habits and things like that. So kind of connected to that, last episode, I talked about how I had a free credit for Audible. I've got my other one. The other one came up. I haven't used it yet, but I did use my first one. And I used it on a book from Joyce Meyer. Yeah. So I think when I talked about last time, I was debating between a fiction book and a nonfiction book. And I think I even threw out that one of the nonfiction books that I've heard a lot about that people had commented of being really good was Atomic Habits. And that's still kind of on it is on the back burner. I haven't used September's credit yet, so maybe I will use it for that one. I don't know yet, but I ended up using my credit for Joyce Meyer's book. I think it's called, I think Making Every Day Count or something about being happy every day or living in the moment. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I have found, so this woman, I love self-help books. I don't want to say self-help books. I want to say I love self-encouragement books. Things that encourage you to do your best, be your best, to give yourself grace, little, tips and tricks and things like that, just practical things and stories and all that stuff. I love it. I love all of that. But I love my fiction books too. So I love it all. And even when I was younger, I think the very first Joyce Meyer book I had read was called Woman to Woman, and it was a devotional type book. And I just loved her style. I loved her style of writing. I thought it was very practical. It connected to the way that I thought and the way that I think. So I really liked reading that book, and I actually have a couple more of her books. So then when I got on Audible, I don't even know what made me look her up. I don't think I looked her up intentionally. I think she came across maybe like a suggestion. And then I was like, oh yeah, Joyce Meyer. Like, I know there's all these other like ladies and famous, more popular authors now. But man, don't miss out on Miss Joyce. Like I still love the things she has to say. I listened to a sample of the book, and I think it was 20 habits for every day. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to look it up. But I listened to the sample, and in that sample, I even just loved what was written and how it was written and what she had to say. And so I was like, you know what, this is. It was 20 ways to make every day better. That's what it was. And even just in that sample, I really liked what she had to say. And so I picked Joyce Meyer. I felt like it was a good, it was something that I would want to listen to. Maybe not necessarily everybody. I think it's a book that I would want to listen to over and over. I've started it, but I'm listening to it slowly because I want to hear, what she has to say. I often listen to it while I do other things, similar to the purpose of this podcast. But I did find that I like this Joyce Meyer one. I know she's sort of like an older author, and maybe not as popular these days, but yeah, don't sleep on her. She's pretty awesome, and I've been really enjoying the things she's had to say in that book. So I do like Audible so far because I really like that book, and I like the person who reads for her, who reads the book. I listened to two different ones who were reading her books, and one of them I wasn't really a fan of, but this one, she sounds kind of like a grandma who wants to give just some good advice. So I like her voice and things like that. But anyway, so that was my Audible choice, was Miss Joyce Meyer. 20 Habits to Make Every Day Better. It's a great book, a great Audible if you want a suggestion. And really, some of her other books are pretty good. I realized that she spoke my language when one of her books is called Eat the Cookie by the Shoes. Y'all, if you know me, you know me. You know that is 100% like how I like to live my life. Eat the cookie and buy the shoes. Woo! I mean, that'll preach in my life. I haven't read that book yet, but just that title of the book, I was like, yes, that sounds like me, most definitely. So anyway, okay. So speaking of books, I am back in school, not just school as far as being a teacher, but I am enrolled in some classes to get an endorsement for teaching for the position that I'm in. And being back in school, man, getting back into the grind of having to write, because I'm in two classes and they're both online classes, woohoo, fully online, which is awesome. For being, since I work full time, I knew when I was, back when I was actually in school, I wasn't a huge fan of online classes because I just preferred to go to class, see people, make connections, talk to the professor, have them talk to me. That was just the way that I like to learn. But the benefit and perks of online classes and being able to kind of work at your own pace-ish and, do those things is kind of nice. But the with online classes, you guys know, comes the discussion boards. Write your post, respond to at least 2 other people in your class, Yeah, trying to keep up with that. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I mean, and I get why. They have to have some type of engagement, right? They have to build some type of community as the professor and the teacher. But man, being the student, writing that is just like, okay. It does make you have to read the text. You do at least read it, skim it to come up with things to say. And you don't want to sound like you don't know what you're talking about when you're responding to others. So it does, I guess, encourage you to read the text and everything. But it is kind of like, more. But I said all that to say, so the textbook that I'm using from a friend who took the same class. Actually, 2 of my friends have taken the class, and we're borrowing the book from my first friend. So I was telling them as I was going through the textbook that I absolutely love having used textbooks because I get to see the highlights that other people put. Even back in college, I know some people liked books that were brand new and they don't like things being marked up, but I loved it because, man, if I didn't have time to read a chapter, I would read like the things that other people highlighted and was like, okay, hopefully that's good enough, and I'd be good to go. So I love reading the textbook that I have now because the things are already highlighted. But then not only are there highlights, but there's also notes written in the margin. And because I'm the third one, it's kind of like the what was that book called? The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, where like all the girls wore the pants but it fit them perfectly, but they all shared in it or whatever and had the memories. It kind of feels like that. It's the Sisterhood of the Traveling Textbook. And so I get to see kind of their comments and what they wrote, and I was like, it felt like I was having a study partner seeing what they found was important. And then the fact that I had one of my friends, the one who bought the book, she goes through and like writes the notes, and there's questions at the end of this, at the end of the chapters. And man, she went through and answered them all. And then the second friend, she went through and referenced what page numbers it was on. And I was like, man, like by the time it got to me, I was like, thank you guys so much. Like so much of what I needed to know was right there, and I could focus right in on it. So I really liked having a used textbook, and shout out to you, my friend, Miss Bartley. Shout out to you for letting me use this textbook. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Anyway, so that was my book part. So moving on. Random things. So these next few things are random things that either popped into my head or that I thought about in the last couple of weeks. That I think just happens to everybody. I think that's also kind of part of this podcast, or are those things that I experience that I want to throw out there and be like, this has got to be like a human thing, right? This isn't just a Phoebe thing. It might be, but I think somebody out there can relate to this. And one of those things is songs that pop into your head that are, like when I say random, very random, and that maybe you don't even know what triggered it, right? And they're just random songs. So for me, there are 3 songs that frequently, and I won't even say frequently. I would say frequently if you look at the span of my life, and compared to how often I should be thinking about these songs. But songs that just come into my head based on some type of mood. And I don't even know what mood it is, but they'll pop into my head. So here, when you hear these 3, you're going to be like, oh my goodness. So the first one, this one's a good one. But this one pops into my head. I don't even know when. I think if I'm feeling kind of good, maybe often like after leaving church, we wouldn't have sang the song or anything, but it's the song Forever. Sung by, I think originally Carrie Job, is that how you say it? Carrie Job? Forever. Forever he is glorified. That one. Da, 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 da. Like nothing has to happen for that song to randomly come into my head. And I think it's the verse that let me see. The moon and stars, they wept. That was it. The morning sun was dead. Na, 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 na. And for whatever reason, it will, when I say randomly, I'll just be driving and then I'm like, and I think, why am I thinking about that? Maybe if I'm looking at the sky, maybe, and if I'm thinking about the moon and the stars or something, I have no idea. But that one randomly pops into my head. But that one makes a little more sense than these next 2, okay? Because of church, and I'm in church a lot, so I think about, God a lot. I try to, so I can see that connection. But these next 2, y'all, like, okay. So another one, and this will come to my head at least once, maybe twice a year. Or maybe like once a year, and not around Halloween, y'all. That's not when it gets in my head, but it's the song Flying Purple People Eater. He was a one-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. Y'all, I don't know why. Like, flying purple people eater, da, 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 flying purple people eater sure looks strange to me. I don't know why. I don't know what mood I have to be in to trigger that. I think that song has to be tied to, okay, so somewhere in my brain, these songs are tied to feelings that I feel, like subconsciously, maybe consciously, but mostly subconsciously. And so that way, when I subconsciously feel this feeling, that song just comes into my head. It somehow goes from the subconscious into the conscious. And the next thing I know, I'm singing Flying Purple People Eater. And I do not know why. That's a fun little song, by the way. The Flying Purple People Eater song. But that one comes, it's less frequent than this next one, but it comes randomly still. And probably once a year or so. And then I'm just like, where? Why? Like, I haven't heard that song in ages. Really, I haven't. It doesn't come around Halloween, so I don't think it's connected to that. It just comes around. And then this last one, this one comes probably, I would probably say once a month, maybe once every other month. And I don't know why. So, and it does come, maybe, I think the trigger might be around nighttime because it's the song In the Dark of the Night from Anastasia. Yeah, so I absolutely, when I was in, I think 4th grade is when I first watched the movie Anastasia, and I loved it. And for being a kid who was easily freaked out by kind of scary things, I'm very surprised that that movie that had Rasputin and things that were in there did not scare me for whatever reason. I guess I was like, I got Jesus, I ain't worried, and it was a cartoon. I don't know, but the song that Rasputin sings in the dark of the night, I just, as a kid, I loved it. In the dark of the night, and it's da 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 da, and still to this day, I will randomly, I guess if I'm thinking about nighttime or dark time, I don't know, I'm telling you, at least once a month or something like that, I will think of the song In the Dark of the Night, and it makes me smile. I'm not thinking about it in like a creepy way or anything like that. I'm just like, ba-da-da-da-da-da. Maybe because it's a cheery song. I don't know. But that's another one that just randomly pops into my head. So I think that might be my question of the episode is, what song like randomly pops into your head? You don't know what triggers it, but it's happened frequently enough that you notice it. Not a song that's just been on your mind lately, but like truly randomly will come into your mind and you're like, oh, here it is again. Here we go again. I'm just kidding. So those are my kind of thoughts there with the random things that pop into your mind. Another random thought I had today, because I can be a somewhat clumsy person at times, I wrote down, it is a good thing that eyes have good reflexes, like your eyes that you see with. And I honestly think, I can't remember if I've read somewhere, I don't know if your eyes, I don't know if that's like your quickest reflex or not. I'm not really sure, but, and I say that because I was trying to clean my glasses, and you can already picture. So I have my glasses in front of me and I spritz the bottle. I spritz it on one side and then I flip my glasses over, or flip, not my glasses, but the bottle over, and I spritz it up. And of course, if it's spritzing up, where's that going to go? Towards my eyes. And I mean like right towards my eyes. And luckily, eyes are so quick with the reflex that my eyes close as soon as I felt like a drop or whatever. And I think that saved my eye, of course, from having cleaner in it. But golly, you guys, I am so silly sometimes. Like, the clumsiness is hilarious, and just the not thinking things through. But I am glad that God made us with quick eye reflex, which is kind of an interesting thought. Like, I guess he knew, obviously he knows everything, that I guess our eyes need to be protected more than maybe some other things, because some other reflexes aren't near that quick. Some other, I guess, reflexes require more conscious thought, whereas our eyes don't really, I guess, require much conscious thought. It just happens subconsciously. So thank you, God, for the way that you made our brain to do those things. And so very quickly, like I said, this is my list of random things for this episode. I love it, though. It's so much fun. And that is, I went to, where'd I go? It wasn't Indies. I can't remember. I went somewhere to eat, and one of the most awkward but kind of necessary things to do, but I do not like doing, it just feels so weird, is checking your food before you leave, right? And I think if you're in a drive-through, it's a little less awkward. Like, once they hand you the bag, you can, check in your car and then drive off. But if you're in the store, I can't remember where I went. I know I used to do it with pizza. But if you actually go into the fast food restaurant and then you just want to check to make sure you have everything. I think it was B-Dubs. And I feel so awkward. Like, I feel like I'm saying, I do not trust that you gave me everything. But it's not that I don't trust you or anything. I just know that sometimes things get forgotten. And those times where I do feel like, okay, I'm going to trust that I've got everything, things are missing. And so I feel terrible. Like, I do feel like I'm telling them I do not trust them and things like that. But it kind of has to be done. And I feel bad about it. So sometimes I don't do it. Honestly, sometimes like the kind of, I guess, guilt of being like, oh, I don't want them to think that they've done so poorly. Like, maybe if I've built some type of rapport with the person, that I just suck it up. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to check the bag. If I'm missing something, I'm missing something. I'm just moving on. And then, but on the flip side of that, sometimes I don't care and I do check the bag, particularly if it's a place that has done me wrong a few times before. B-Dubs. I'm just kidding. But that's another thing I found that is I don't mind checking bags. Honestly, I don't mind confrontation as much when I'm chewing gum. I realized this the other day, and y'all think there's something to it. There needs to be a study, a psychological study on the effects of chewing gum and your confidence level or your sass level or your attitude level as you chew your gum. I think, yes, I think like I joke with my mom all the time because when my mom gets a piece of gum, oh my goodness, the sassiness comes out and she knows. Like, I'm like, mama, you gotta spit that gum out because you are getting too sassy for me right now. But I think there's something to it because the same will happen to me. I'm telling you, I feel like it happens to other people. Like, there's those who chew gum perfectly. And that's hard to do because gum chewing is as the person who doesn't like the sound of chewing, is a very annoying sound. But it's those, there's some people, and sometimes I do it. You just chew your gum, your mouth isn't moving, like barely moving, because you're just kind of chewing slowly. Your mouth is closed the entire time. We barely know you have gum in your mouth. But something about gum being in the mouth, even when it's interesting because when I see it in other people, like when I see other people who chew gum, particularly if they're chewing it with their mouth open, automatically, and I know this should not be a thing, but automatically I'm like, because I feel like they're going to be a little sassy with that gum chewing if they're chewing it with their mouth open. Like I'm like, oh, they're going to have some attitude because they're chewing with their mouth open. But I think my reasoning for that is because I know when I chew my gum, and I don't chew my gum with my mouth open, but sometimes, if I'm by myself, I might, maybe. I don't even like the sound for myself, but I know when I'm chewing gum, I feel sassier, y'all. I don't know what it is, but I feel sassier. So I remember, I think it was McAllister's, and I was getting something, and I had that gum, and I was just chewing it. I wasn't chewing it with my mouth open, but I was chewing it hard, and I remember to be like, okay. Like that was my attitude. And I got my stuff and I was like, thank you. And I was perfectly fine. I checked everything. I got my car. This car was coming towards me. And with my gum, I was like, I know you're going to move. Like, I know I'm going to be able to get through here. Like and I was like, oh, this is from the gum. Like, I was like, why am I being so sassy in my head? Like, what is going on? And then I was like, I think it's the gum. The gum is making me do it. I've noticed that a few times. Like if I am feeling like I don't ever try to pick fights, but if I have gum in my mouth, I certainly won't run away from one. I'll tell you that, And I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta spit this gum out. And believe it, I did spit it out because I was like, oh my goodness, it's giving me an attitude. And I don't want to approach people with an attitude. I don't want to go home, my poor little husband, with an attitude. So has anybody else found that to be the case? Like where you chew gum and you just as sassy as can be, or you've noticed that with other people that like they're normally chill, calm, lovely people, and then you get a piece of gum in their mouth, and all of a sudden, you better watch yourself. That's me, man. So I do think, I might have to use that to my advantage. Maybe if there's a situation where I need to like, I guess get some courage or something. I don't do the liquid courage thing. I'm not a drinker, but maybe I can do some gum courage and build up my confidence by chewing gum real quick, and maybe spitting it out. If I just need a little bit, or just chewing through the whole situation and annoy that person with the sound of my chewing. But gum, it does make me confident and kind of rude at the same time. So I have to be careful. I have to be very aware of how I'm feeling, what I'm doing when I when I chew gum as that person. But anyway, so, and then I have kind of one last random thing before I have a final thought, and we'll wrap it up after that final thought. But the kind of last random thing was this. So I was making, what was I going to make? Oh, I think I was making fries in the oven. And while I was there, I had my pan out, and I got in and I was getting the parchment paper. And y'all, one thing I realized is I do not like the sound of ripping the parchment paper. Like the parchment paper is the kind of waxy paper, the wax type paper. Because lately I've been using the kind that's like pre-cut, so I just have to pull it out, which I don't even like the sound of that, but I just pull it out and it's fine. But I wasn't using that for this pan because it was a little bigger. And so I had to, use pull the parchment paper to the length that I needed and tear it and rip it. And it made the sound that I cringe at now. It was just this I can't even, just I don't know. But it was that, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Like that kind of waxy paper scrape feeling. Oh, it's like that nails on the chalkboard sound, right? It was, I did not like it one bit. I just wrote that down because I thought that was funny that I recognized that sound made me cringe. And I'm trying to think, I know, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned other sounds that are a little, man, I can't remember if I did or didn't, but that sound, it literally, my body was like, ah, when you hear something and you just kind of, you literally cringe. I hate to say the term cringe as far as I know it's more like it's just oh, that's so cringy, but literally though, my body was cringing when I heard that sound. And now that one, I will not ask that question. You do not have to share things that make you cringe, because, I want to, we're keeping this lighthearted and happy for you. So please don't think about that. But I did want to throw that out there because I thought that was funny, that I recognized that and that it literally made me cringe. But the last thing that I want to share for this episode, it's a situation that happened, maybe, did I really just say oof? I think, oh my goodness. Anyway, a situation, my daughter, my stepdaughter, she used to say oof a lot. I think that's where I get it from, that oof, that Gen Z thing back when she was younger. I don't know if they still say it now. I'm pretty sure they do not, but, this happened about, I would probably say a month and a half ago, because it was right before school started. And I was going to a training and, one of our professional developments, and I get there, and you have to, you have your name tags, you have the things like that, and you sign in. And I think throughout most of the day, I had done my thing. I went through some of the sessions. They were great. They were fun. It was a digital technology type training. And so it was cool to see kind of the different things that they had there. But I had went there and I was sitting in the lobby. It was after our lunch break, and I was just enjoying my, finishing up my, this is funny. I was actually finishing up a cookie. We had eaten lunch, I believe, I think we went to Qdoba. And then I had wrapped it up with eating a cookie. And so I was sitting in the lobby eating my cookie. And while I was there, one of the women who worked there was addressing this young guy. So where the PD took place was at a school. And I believe the school, I can't remember if it's, kindergarten through high school, maybe middle school and high school, but I know that it goes through high school. And there was throughout at the conference, there was different people there to help and they used some of the high schoolers as, I guess they could volunteer their time. And so usually there's 2 or 3 that were kind of running around being helpful. And the rest of us are teachers. And so I was sitting there, and one of the ladies who was working there, she approached a young guy. He appeared to be in high school to me. He didn't necessarily have they didn't have to dress in any type of specific way. They didn't have to have a label that said they were volunteers or anything. So he was just in his regular casual dress. But the lady walked up to him and she said, "Hey, excuse me." She said, "Are you participating in the training or are you helping?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm a helper. I'm not a teacher. I'm not participating. I'm just here to help." But he smiled. And I thought about that and I was like, what a way for her to phrase that question. Y'all know I'm a word person. And I don't know if she did it intentionally or if that's just, if she really thought that. I think he did look young. You could tell he was a high schooler. He could have been a young teacher. They could start teaching as soon as they, get out of college. So he could have easily also been 21, just a young looking 21-year-old. But I loved the way that she said it, because it made it sound like he could have been mistaken for being someone, more than who he was. Like, I don't want to say he wasn't important, but, the conference was, for teachers and things like that. And so she kind of gave him a compliment in asking, if he was there to help by being like, oh, are you one of the people this is for, or are you someone who's helping? She could easily be like, hey, are you helping here? Or hey, are you volunteering? And just said that. And if he was a teacher, he would be like, no, I'm a teacher, right? And if he was, just a high schooler, he'd be like, yeah, that's me. But just the fact that she gave him the benefit of, you could be one of the people this is for. You could be the person who is important. And that made me think, because it was like, I want to make someone's day by, saying that they could be the person of value and importance here. For example, when let's say you run into somebody at the hospital, and I'm just thinking about this because, speaking of my child, she works at a hospital, and you could, go to somebody and be like, hey, are you a nurse? Or you could just be nice and say, hey, are you the doctor or the nurse? And I'm not saying doctors are more important than nurses. Please don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not trying to assign value to one over the other, but I am trying to say it's okay to, or I even think it's cool and nice to kind of give someone even a higher, I don't want to say value, man, like just like more credit than less credit, or none at all. So that would be like if I went to, let's say at that same meeting there was a training for principals, and I was there as a teacher helping. How cool would I feel if someone came up to me and be like, hey, what school are you the principal of? To be mistaken for a principal, I'd be like, oh, me? I'm not a principal. I'm a teacher, but thank you so much for thinking that I could be. That whole thing, like that, just thank you so much for thinking that I could be someone of value and worth, and not saying that you're not, but I'm saying, like, when approaching someone or when talking to someone, and I really hope I'm explaining it in a way that makes sense, but saying that they could be, that person, like you see their potential, you see how far they could go, or like if someone jokingly, the best, for example, I can use for myself as principal and teacher, because that's my literal thing. And so that's not to say that principals are, more important than teachers or anything like that. But the fact that someone would mistake me for a principal is pretty awesome. And I would love that. Like, I would be like, oh, thank you so much. So kind of thinking about, when asking or talking to someone, go ahead and assume the best. Maybe that's the point I'm trying to make. Assume the best of them. Assume that they are the top of whatever. Go ahead and assume that, instead of assuming that they're lower or different, or less than, or in any way. Go ahead and assume the best of them, whether they really are or not. Maybe you can show them that, hey, I could see this in you. There's something in you that makes me think you could do this. Or there's something in you that reflects a similar characteristic of this. And maybe it's something they have seen and they're like, wow, someone else sees it in me. Or maybe it's something that they never thought and they're like, man, maybe I really could do that. It's kind of like the perk of being a teacher is that you can instill in kids, not who they want to be. You don't want to tell them who they want to be, but you can say you can be anything, and not just anything, but you can be someone great. You can do something important. It kind of makes me think of a conversation I literally had this week. I think, honestly, it was yesterday, with one of my students. I was subbing for PE, y'all. If I keep subbing for PE, side note, I'm gonna have to tell y'all some stories, because I am not a PE teacher by any means. I currently now teach multilingual learners. I am an English language development teacher, but sometimes they need help in subbing, and so I was a PE teacher this week for a couple of times, and yeah, let me tell you, shout out to all you PE teachers. You guys are amazing. But anywho, so I will probably have to tell some PE stories. I'm going to have to get some ready, because one, I feel like this won't be the last time, but I'm going to have to get some sub stories ready. Like, with this new position comes plenty of opportunities to sub in other classrooms, and we're going to have to see how that goes. But anywho, so I had a conversation with a young boy, and he was having a rough time. And so I was talking to him to the side, and I mean, we had been talking about everything, and I was like, well, what do you want to grow up to do? What do you want to do one day? Because I was trying to make the connection to the things you do now will help shape who you want to be. And so he said, I want to work in a school. I said, great. I said, well, what do you want to do in the school? And I threw out all kinds of things: teacher, principal, security, custodian, lunch person, assistant. What do you want to do? And he said, I want to be a principal. And I looked him in the eyes, and I said, you know what? I honestly believe you could be a principal. I said, and you would be a great one. So if you were a principal right now, and I went into that whole spiel, but what I'm saying is, like, believing in people and believing them for the best, for the most, for the highest thing, for the highest achievement that they could. Like, there is power in believing in people, and I don't want to say in mistaking them for being more. Like, I would rather be mistaken for someone mistaking me for being something more than what I was than someone mistaking me for being someone less than what I was. We've heard those stories of, like, the CEO walking in and maybe they're not dressed as a CEO would, and so people just don't think anything of them just to find out they were the CEO, right? So just seeing the best in people, and then having opportunities to try to make their day in any way. And that's just kind of an example. She did it in the way that she questioned the young boy, are you a participant or are you a volunteer? Both of them were good outcomes. Kind of similar to talking to the young guy today. I was like, yeah, yesterday, you totally could be a principal. I could see you at the top. So if there's any opportunity, if someone and whatever it is that they want to do, encourage them. But if there's any opportunity, or if you see something in someone that maybe they don't see in themselves, or maybe you just see, like, a quality of greatness, find a way to share it with them. Make their day that way. Make that, I don't want to say mistake, but that happy mistake of, oh, are you so-and-so? And they're like, oh, no, not me. Oh, are you the main singer for today? What? No, I'm just a background singer. Things like that. I thought that was pretty awesome, and that stuck with me, and that became something that I was like, you know what, I definitely want to try to do that. And so I want to encourage everybody out there listening, to do that, and to try to look for ways to maybe encourage and uplift other people in that way. So yeah, that was my last thing that I wanted to share. I don't quite have my food segment, anything to this week. I don't, other than I could throw out there, food segment would be the awkwardness of checking your food. Though I do. Okay. I do have a food segment. All right, so husband and I, very quickly, we just went to this Indian restaurant called the Tikka House. I've been there a couple of times now, and I absolutely, it's been so good. It's been wonderful, and the thing that I like about it, and I think my husband and I, we both agree, almost like the best part, their curry is very good. Awesome, love that. But it's their naan bread, and my husband, he gets the regular naan, and you get this bread piece like this, like twice the size of your head, or the size of your head if you got a big head. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But you do get this bread piece, like the naan, that's like really huge. He got the regular naan. And when I went with a couple of my girlfriends about a month ago, one of them got the garlic naan, and that was really good. And I think one got the butter naan, and that was really good. And then I got, because I call it the fluffy naan, but it's the bhatura, I think is how you say it. And that's the kind of the fried naan, so it's fluffy. And let me just say, the Tikka House, it has great Indian food, great curry. I've only had the chicken curry there. My husband had the chicken vindaloo, and he liked it. But that naan bread is worth the visit alone. It was so good. In fact, I usually eat all my food in one setting, and I could have probably ate like 3/4 of it, but I saved half of it because I was like, I know I'm going to want this again later today because it is so yummy. So that is my food segment. Okay. So I did have a food segment, is the Tikka House and the yummy goodness of their naan bread. And if you haven't had naan bread ever, oh my goodness, go get some. Not at the store. go to your nearest Indian restaurant and go get some naan bread. In fact, go ahead and get the bread and the curry. Chicken curry is a good starter. If you're worried about the spice of the curry, try chicken tikka masala. That's kind of like a good starter. If you are even a little more concerned about that, try, I think it's called pakora, which is just like little fried chicken bites. So go get some Indian food. It's amazing. It's good. I'm sure as this podcast continues, you're going to hear more about it from different places that I go, because I really do love Indian food. I think it's my favorite kind of food. But anywho, so that's my food segment. And then my song segment would be the random songs in my head. So we made it. We made it through everything. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening. I definitely appreciate all the listens. And all the people who talk with me and say, hey, I've been listening, or I've been catching up on the podcast. You guys don't know how much that means to me, and how much I really and truly appreciate it. So thank you so much. So go join me on Instagram if you haven't yet. Go on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review, leave comments on there. Let me know what you like about it, how much you love it. Answer the questions on Spotify, leave a review, do all those wonderful things. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your interaction so far, and I hope you guys have an amazing next couple of weeks.